It's that time of the day again. It's time for Mules and Donkeys Show. My name's Dave. This is Steve Edwards. Every Tuesday we get together to talk about mules and donkeys. Why? Because it's fun to be together. And if you can't hear that, open up them ears. That's Jess in the background. And Jess is providing some stern instruction. He's saying, y'all listen up. It's going to be a good show. So take the advice of the border collie. And you can't go wrong. Every Tuesday we talk mules and donkeys. It is so much fun to get to spend a little bit of time with you together, hear what's going on in your life, what you are working on. And this is meant to be fun and enjoyable owning an equine. And that's why we do this. Steve, it's been a whole week since we last chatted and hung out. And I'm curious, what's going on down there at the ranch today?
Well, today I've been putting a water pump in my 64 Falcon Woody Wagon. Yeah. Now, this car we've had since 1970. I paid $860 for that little car. That was in 1970 when it was a lot of money. And my payments were $28 a month. But we've raised the kids on it and things like this. So I was putting a water pump in it today.
Man, I look at this right here. Y'all seeing this? That's the old Sonic service right there. What's that, A&W root beer or something like that?
A&W root beer, yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. I'll tell you what, there's lots of root beer out there, and it's all good. But for my money, A&W is the best. Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that you've been enjoying. Well, I guess you didn't say if you were enjoying working on, but I figure you pretty much enjoy working on vehicles, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, when they're old vehicles like this, I can understand that. But this thing here, as soon as you say the word computer, my hearing and my sight just disappears.
Start to get a little twitchy and well, you know what? I'll tell you what. It's not just a generational thing. I think it's just a disposition type. Hey, there you go, mule word. It's a disposition thing because my wife, she's only 4 years younger than me. You see, I'm an elder millennial. I just barely eked in there in 1982, and she's 4 years younger than me, so not that much younger. And I'll tell you what, 50% of the time, I'll look at her computer to help her with something, not even a computer problem, and I'll just be like, why isn't your mouse working? She goes, oh, it just stopped working about 3 weeks ago, so I've just been making do. I was like, why didn't you fix it? She's, I have no idea how to fix it. I just figured that's what mouse did. And I was like, okay, no, let me help you out here. And she goes, how do people get along without a tech person in their family? And she kind of stops and she answered her own question. She goes, I guess they just don't use technology. So I think it's just like a disposition type thing. Every time I come over to my parents' house, my mom's got a list of technology items she wants my attention with. But we're not here to talk technology. We're here to talk mules and donkeys, and we would love for you to get in on the conversation as well. The way this program works, every Tuesday, we come together for 60 minutes to answer any and every mule and donkey question that you got. Why? Because we want you to enjoy what it is to own these animals. For so many of us, it's an escape. It's the ability, the invitation to get out of the news, to get out of the daily grind, to get away for the weekend, to step into an adventurous life and enjoy what God has created. And that is the outdoors and the mule and donkey. And so anything that we can do to help you make that a reality, that's what we want to do for you. 3 things that we ask on this program. And if this is the first time you're watching, you're already seeing folks do this on the live stream. Number 1, we want to know your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like today. That gives us an idea of who you are, where in the world you are, and just a little bit about what your context looks like today. And it makes us feel a little bit closer. So please share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like. The second thing, and this one's really important, it's almost as important as knowing that you're here. That's the most important one. Knowing and being known is the most important thing, and we've got a God who wants to be known and knows you. But the second thing is that we want to answer any and every mule and donkey question that you've got. So no question's too dumb. No question is one that we've answered too many times. No question's really off limits. And if you got a horse question, you can go ahead and put that in there too. We'll see if we can't get you an answer. So any and every mule and donkey question that you got, put that in the comment section. And right now is a really good time to do that. The third thing that we ask is that you make sure the Ask Steve show is not the best kept secret on the internet. Matter of fact, we want as many people to know that they have a resource for getting results when they get out to train their animals. So share the broadcast. On Facebook and YouTube, there's a like button, there's a share button. You can tag friends or family members' usernames in the comments section. Just make sure you let someone know that you care about them by sending the Ask Steve program link to them. Okay, I'm going to say hello to some of our friends spending time with us today. Rory is watching, as Rory does, from Southwest Ohio, where it is clear skies and 75 degrees. Rory says, dude, that's a Luxoliner. Was that your car, Steve?
Luxoliner.
Luxoliner. Was it in the background? Bring it back here. Let's see. What's the Luxoliner? Is there something? What's the car in the background, Steve?
Well, yeah, that's a Chevy. It's a 37 Chevy back there, but mine's a 64 Falcon. But yeah, the one in the back is a 37 Chevy.
Cool. Very fun. Rory, good to have you here. Hey, our friend Sherman is here. Sherman Johnson, 85 degrees, headed to Horseshoe League. Have fun, Sherman. Jim is watching from Western Maryland, where it's 64 degrees and clear. Our friend Andrea is watching from Boone, North Carolina, where it's 75 degrees, sunny with Carolina blue sky. Finally, hot rain at home in Altoona, Florida. Praise God. Bring the rain. Linda is watching from Portal, 97 degrees. Dave O'Brien, our friend Dave O'Brien from East Texas, 82 and humid. Winter's martingale and saddle working are coming along as planned. Time for her first ride later this year. That's awesome. And folks, what you got to know about Dave Bryan is he has not been rushing to get into the saddle. He has been working hard on ground foundation training, and then moving to surcingle training and beginning to work with the surcingle and then the mule riders, martingale. And I don't know, how long has he been working with this mule, Steve? Do you recall?
I don't remember the names of these mules. He got one when he was in Shelbyville last year. That's right. A little Molly mule, and she's just golly. She's got $1 million disposition, Yeah. So I don't know which one it is, but I know he's been going through. He said that the one from Shelbyville is definitely the better of the two mules,
That's cool. So, Dave, Tell us how long you've been working with Winter before you are getting into saddle work. So that'd be cool to hear. Andrea says, Dave, you're a young'un. You know what? I am a young'un. And I feel like I'm getting older and older and older, but then I look at my boys, I'm like, I got to stay young for these 3 little boys. I got to keep up with them. So I'm doing the things that I can to stay young. Kenneth is watching from Patton, Missouri, 78 degrees. Herschel, good to have you here live, Herschel. Sunny and warm. Grass is doing great. Babies are doing good. Hey, it doesn't get much better than that. Marsha, our friend Marsha is watching. Cloudy but nice today. I told the mules, hey, it's Tuesday. Time for Steve Edwards and the come-along hitch, and I'm sure they all just ran away into their stalls, right, Marcia? they hear come-along hitch, and they're like, no. No, they wind up loving it, don't they? Because they know exactly what you want. Rory says, Steve, do you have a homemade fly spray recipe or recommendation? They are bad here in Southwest Ohio.
Yeah, golly, I wished I could tell you, because I know that you all have them huge horse flies. Them things are big enough to saddle and ride, and they bite really bad. And you bet I don't. I can tell you the truth. Only thing I ever use here is a fly mask, and that's it. The one without ears works the best because the flies do mess with their eyeballs. We have a company that does all natural stuff. and that's probably worked the best, that most people have had the best luck with. And Dave can put up that information up for you uh, on the internet, so you can contact them and tell them we sent you. The big thing, folks, is remember they use their tails to swish the flies away. So I like to put. I have there you go, Espana silk. Uh, Contact them, and they got some different all natural products that are really good for flies, especially if you got mules with that are allergic to fly bites, and they got all kinds of blood sticking blood where it's cauterized and has become hard. You can see where they just keep on eating and eating on that. I've actually used WD-40, folks. You all can laugh at it, and I used to think it was made out of fish oil. It's not. But I've actually sprayed WD-40 on the tails of my mule and on their legs, and that's worked the best. It's an oily base, and I probably have used it for close to 40 years now, and the mules are nice and slick. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Espana silk, y'all go check that out, and be sure to let the folks there know that we sent you. They got a great product, and we want them to know that we're doing what we can to support them. Rory, thank you for the question. Marcia is watching from Virginia. We've got our friends in Colorado. It's 75 and threatening to rain. Man, I'll tell you what, I hope it would threaten us down here in Arizona. We'll take it anytime we can. Rory says, I made it up. Okay, there we go. I was thinking that I was missing something. Rory, you're messing with us, and I love it. Keep it up. Lori is watching, so that was Rory. Lori is watching from sunny and 72 in Michigan. And Top of the Ridge Ranch says, do you have any recommendations for cracked donkey hooves? I give them each about a cup of total equine every morning in addition to their grass hay. Wondering if you have any recommended hoof supplements.
Folks, I haven't seen any hoof supplements out there yet that have really worked. I really haven't. I used to give them congosamine and chondroitin for joints and this sort of thing, and I actually kind of quit doing that. But the best thing you can do with these mules and donkeys is, number one, especially the donkeys, keep their feet short. Shorter the better, because the donkey has the worst foot of the equine world, the worst foot. And so since it has the worst foot, it's prone to crack, it's prone to chip, and it's prone, bigger than anything else, it's prone, get this, it is prone to contract. And when you don't have a foot that is correct and your frog is not correct, then you're going to have problems with blood going up and down the leg. So the biggest thing I can tell you is this, is that you want to trim them short. I like to use pine tar and linseed oil and mix it up and keep it on the hoof. The nice thing about the pine tar and linseed oil is it does keep some moisture in the foot. And you want to put it in about an inch above the hairline as well. And that pine tar and linseed oil, it does the best for keeping moisture in. Now, the other thing that we do here in Arizona, what we've done is right by the water hole, we've kind of kept a little bit of a muddy area right at each one. Each one of my mules are in a 20 by 20 stall, and each one has their own water. And then when they walk over to get a drink, they actually step in the mud, and the mud helps, of course, keep moisture into it. But the pine tar and linseed oil is probably about your best thing I can say to you.
Awesome. Next question comes in from Gidget. Says, my mule really struggles with things behind him. Even leading him, he isn't a fan of things happening behind him. I have ridden him on trails with others, and sometimes it will really bug him bad. Other times, not so much. Do I need to start dragging things with him, like maybe the come-along rope and a surcingle, and have him drag a tarp or a barrel?
Okay, so folks, forget about desensitizing. All right, you got to get that out of your mind. Doing a bunch of dragging tarps and flopping tarps and walking over tarps, and hanging hides on all. Forget that, because you can't desensitize if you ain't against rattlesnakes if you don't have a bunch of rattlesnakes, right? Okay, if you keep a rattlesnake around to desensitize, it's good. But here, let's go back to this. When the mule is not liking something behind him, what does he do? Okay, does he elevate his head? Does he stick his nose out? Does he suck his tail up? What does he do that makes you unhappy?
So that was a earlier comment that had been sent in, so we'd have to hear back from her. Anything else that you want to say, Steve?
Well, here's the thing, folks, is that when it comes down to these mules having a problem like Buddy Sour or doesn't like another mule behind them or too close, things like this, it's all the rider, folks, because it's natural for these animals not to want something else in their space, okay? Because if you ask, tell, demand, remember that? When a new mule is coming into the herd leader pins her ears and asks her, and said to her, "You're coming too close." But the mule keeps on coming. So the herd leader asked by pinning her ears. Now she tells by pinning her ears and swishing her tail. That's number 2. And number 3, she spins and kicks. In other words, this is my space. Okay. So now let's just say that somebody is coming up behind you. All right. And your mule starts getting upset. Turn and ask the person to get back. Folks, you always want at least 2 mule links behind the next mule. Don't get much closer than that. You're going to get yourself kicked. I can't tell you time and time again the amount of people who have been kicked or their animals have been kicked or something like this because you got too close. Okay. Now, always be aware of the mule in front of you or the horse in front of you. If that mule is elevating his head, if that horse is swishing his tail, you are too close. He is putting on the brake light saying, you are too close. Okay, now, probably some of you are probably bad about getting up on somebody else's bumper, aren't you? You know, something to consider. So you're too close. So you want to think about that. And ride, folks. You know, you cannot fix, for instance, Buddy Sour. There's no such thing as Buddy Sour. It just happens to be a name we give it. It's an equine. The equine wants to be with other equine. It doesn't want to be with you, the predator. Get that in your mind, okay? So what you have to do is use your come-along rope on the ground to say, hey, you're going to listen to me. Or the mule rider's martingale in the saddle. Hey, you're going to listen to me, right brain, left brain, okay? And that's really, really important that you folks ride, okay? In other words, don't just think, oh, my mule is a trained mule. He's going to do just fine. The mule is going to do as good as you. As good as your abilities are. That's what he's going to do.
Awesome. Steve. All right, we have an update on Coop Watch 2024. Last week, Merlin sent in, or 2 weeks ago, Merlin sent in a note saying that he had by June 4th to get the chicken coop up for the missus. And Merlin sent in an update after seeing our Coop Watch segment last week. Steve, I got the chicken coop up and the chickens are in it now. Still have nests and roosts to make, but as these chickens are 3 days old, I won't need to get it finished for a little while. I threatened to go buy a 3-bell team that are 6 years old so I could get my stable up, but that didn't fly at all. I will just have to wait until I can recoup, get it, the money that I lost because of an emergency to get my animals and stable. Hope everything's okay. You know the old saying, happy wife, a happy life. She will see this, so I must say, we have been married 54 years in July, and I wouldn't change a thing. We have a very good life together in Christ. And folks, that is Coop Watch 2024. Merlin got the chicken coop up, so we're happy to celebrate with you there, Merlin. Oh, man, we like having fun. Okay, Dave O'Brien says 3.5 years he's been working with Winter. So been working real hard with Winter and starting to do saddle work here in the next little bit. How fun. Susie is watching from Warner Springs, where it's 87 and sunny. Misty is watching from Signal Mountain, Tennessee, where it is sunny and perfect. Kathy is watching from Houston, Texas, 95 and raining here. Frank is watching from New York, where it's 68 and sunny. I'm still looking for my first mule, but in the meantime, I am using your advice for my mules on my twin teenagers. Raising teenagers and mules are the same. Ask, tell, demand. That's awesome. That's great. Frank, give us an update. Hey, maybe we'll bring back the news update as Frank continues to give us updates on using Ask, Tell, and Demand with his teenagers. Bill is watching and sharing to Mules of Ohio and Indiana. Beautiful here today, low 70s. Big shout out to Rory for all the help with the hay yesterday. Hey, that's right. We are bringing people together, and we love hearing it. That's awesome. Good for you guys. Susie says, any recommendations to get my lazy, sleepy donkey to move faster when riding?
Yes. Okay. So, folks, to be able to get your animals to walk faster, you have to use leg cues. Asking with your calves, telling with the side of your stirrups, demanding with your spur. You have to use leg cues. So therefore, guess what? You have to use spurs. Yes, I do not have a pair of boots that don't have a pair of spurs on them. All of my boots have spurs. And I ride all the time. Now, my first couple rides with my colts, maybe a dozen rides or so, I don't ride with spurs. I do ask, tell, okay, but I don't go the demanding stage because a lot of times they're kind of concerned about things. So I don't put any iron to them. And when I do, folks, I never harpoon them. All right, so now let's go back. Let's set up the stage. Donkeys are very good walkers. Man, they're excellent. They can flat take right off. Now, number one thing you want to do is make sure your tack is on correctly. You don't want your saddle to be setting on top of the scapula. You don't want your front cinch to be setting against the leg. Remember, on your saddles, 2 inches behind the scapula. That makes, if your saddle's made correctly, that makes your front leg is going to be about 4 inches from the front cinch. Now, on your donkey, it could be maybe 3 fingers instead of 4, 3 inches, okay? And then you want 4 to 6 inches on your hobble strap on your cinches. And that way everything is in place. And of course, then having your britchin adjusted. And remember, your britchin is to balance the saddle, not hold it back. All right, now that we got our gear right, next thing we want to have is make sure we're riding in a snaffle bit. Of course, I prefer my Mule Rider's martingale. What the Mule Rider's martingale does is it sets the head, so the nose is on the vertical, head is down, and they're framed up. Top of the hip, top of the wither, top of the head, framed up straight, period. All right, now, when they're framed up, that means it rounds out their back and they drive off their hind legs. If your donkey has an elevated head, you're hollowing out the back and he doesn't want to move fast because he's riding off of his front end, okay? So you want to make sure you do your surcingle work. Listen, folks, everybody out there that has a donkey, that has a mule, should have a surcingle. It's like giving tune-ups. Even my wife's world champion mule, top undefeated in Arizona, she was awesome. She was surcingled at least twice a week. So if you don't have a surcingle, folks, you're not going to be able to get refinement on your mule. Refinement. Okay, so it's really, really important that you do your surcingle work. Now we got our tack correct. We got our communication device, our snaffle bit correct, and we're setting in the saddle correct. Now, we are setting in the corral, for instance, and we have a corral post on the across the way. say 100 feet over maybe. Okay, depends on how big your corral is. Now, you are going to be going straight toward that post, your hands in direct reining position. And then as you're going, watch the shoulders. Watch them going forward and watch them going back. Watch them. When the right shoulder comes forward, that is when you tap it with your right leg in the center. That will make that right leg extend, and that way you can go faster. Now, left leg is coming. You see the left shoulder coming. Tap with your left leg. That will extend the left leg. And then so you got the idea. Right leg, tap with your right leg. Left leg, tap with your left leg. Calf is asking. Stirrup is telling. Spur is demanding. Okay. So if they pick it up and they do it correctly during a asking situation with your calf, that's all you have to do. But here's what you're doing. When the mule or donkey is bringing its leg forward and you tap, that makes that leg want to extend. Then you will get a faster shuffle and this sort of thing. Now, they could decide that you want them to go into a trot. So it's going to take your hands to go right, left, right brain, listen to me, left brain, listen to me, to say, no, I don't want you to go into a trot. I want you to stay at a fast walk. Now, if you're going to go into a trot or a canter, then we have to do it completely different. So as far as being the training aspects there. Now, when you are riding or when you are training, you want to, it's very, very important that you want to feed your mule or your donkey correctly. You want them to have energy to be able to do what you're asking them to do. And that energy is going to come through whole oats, not crimped oats that will fatten up an animal, but whole oats, which will give them energy. So then you want to feed them correctly. You want to have your tack on correctly, and then you want to use your hands correctly. Normally, the donkeys can have an excellent walk, very good walk, okay? But a lot of times it's us that are creating a problem. Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
There it is. Give me just a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, great. Hey, let's see here. Susie, thanks so much for offering that up. Mari is watching from Winston, Missouri, 85 degrees and sunny, and we'll get to Mari's question as soon as Steve gets back. I want to let you all know that we have a podcast. That's right. We have a podcast. The podcast is the Mule Ranch Podcast, and the episodes there are the current episodes, and it's audio only, so it's the current episodes. Like today's podcast episode, today's show right here will show up on the podcast tomorrow. In addition to that, we have several hundred episodes that have been released over the years, and those are being re-released on the podcast. So every week, as of right now, there are 3 new programs available for you to listen to on the go. So it's not video, it's audio. You can download it from Spotify or Apple Podcast. You can download it. YouTube, I think, has a podcast feature. And so I put a link in the comment section, and I would love to have y'all go there right now and make sure to subscribe to Steve's podcast. It's the Mule Ranch Podcast, and every week we're releasing 3 episodes. It's that week's program released on Wednesdays, and then earlier in the week, we release an old episode, and later on in the week, we release an old episode. So you can take Steve with you all the time. And I know that that's what y'all want. Y'all are wanting to hear Steve Edwards' voice 24/7, and we can't make that happen, but we're making it happen 3 days a week for 1 hour each day. So be sure to go check that out. I put a link in the comment section, and as soon as you subscribe, come back. in the comment section, say subscribe, ! And that'll be a lot of fun. Okay, so we're going to get back to Mari's question. And Mari says, I am ponying my yearling mule on trail rides. Anything else I can do with her to prepare her from being away from home? Now, Steve, first off, what does ponying mean? And then is there anything that Mari can do to prepare her yearling while away from home?
Okay, so ponying means you have your animal that you're leading on your right-hand side, usually about 3 foot from the tail of your riding animal. And the idea of ponying is for them to get used to being with one behind the other, which they do natural, and exercise them and this sort of thing. Make sure you do your groundwork first. Use your come-along rope when you're doing this. Don't just use a halter, because you'll teach them lots of bad habits. So make sure your groundwork and your everything is stable first before you get in the saddle and pony. What's other things you can do is groundwork. Okay, you can set yourself up a course, and you can use your come-along rope, and you can lead them across the top of a bridge. You can lead them across tarps and stuff. Now, you're not desensitizing folks. You're teaching them to follow your lead, using the come-along hitch, using the bridle and the saddle. It's when I lay a tarp down and tell folks to cross it, it's not that I'm desensitizing them to cross the tarp. I'm wanting them to teach the mule to go where they want it to go, even though it's a tarp, even though it's a square with tires on it, whatever it may be. The idea is not desensitizing, but teaching you to be a better communicator in the saddle and on the ground. Pick up all the feet of your colt all the time. Stick your finger in every hole all the time. You can use a surcingle. I strongly suggest surcingles for any of your babies. You cannot do enough surcingling. Put the surcingle on. It's the same thing as your first saddle. Surcingle on with the breeching and the breast collar, all that. It's the same thing as your first saddle. And you're not going to hurt their back, and it's not a lot of weight. So surcingle work is really important. Teaching them to go in the trailer, all that stuff. The main thing is, number one thing is groundwork, come along work. You can't ever overdo groundwork.
Awesome. Very good. Steve, let's get it just to your left a little bit and angle it up just a little bit. All right. While he's doing that, top of the ridge says, my farrier swears by 80% Listerine, 20% neem oil for fly spray. Steve, have you heard anything about either of those?
Neem oil is great stuff. We use it on our plants. I never thought about using neem oil for the mules. That's really great.
So 80% Listerine, folks, 20% neem oil. If anybody gives it a shot, let us know how it works. Let us know if you're happy with it. And that'd be fun to be able to come up with something that maybe we could recommendation. Rory says, thank you for the recommendation. I started using WD-40 after Bill Rose taught me about it. Bill and Rory, man, those guys are hanging out and they didn't invite us. What in the world? Johnson says, can you cue the mule to pick up his feet with the tip of your boot?
You can. I mean, all the reason they're picking up the foot is when you tap them, it makes them uncomfortable. My favorite way is to hit my buttons, the scapula and the hip bone, both of those, the mule will automatically want to pick his foot up and do what you want him to do.
All right, so I've got this right here, Steve. I don't really think we can talk about picking up the feet too much, so I'm going to put this over here. And I'm gonna play this video, and you just explain to us what we're watching, because I think folks, I really don't think we can get enough of this type of material out there. Yep. Folks need to know that they can cue the mule up to pick up the feet.
Okay, now right here, I'm talking about the scapula, and I lay my hand flat. That's my buddy in the back there, Randy. and I'm going across, and my middle finger feels my button. So see, I run my hand flat, and I watch. As I'm rubbing on the button, you see the foot moving? Rubbing on the button, see the foot moving? And when it moves, then I go ahead and cue it at the knee, and then I hold on to the foot. Notice the mule is not leaning on me. When you use the button, that teaches the mule to get over and to stand on 3 feet. Now notice I got my hand on the button again, and I'm putting the foot down slowly. When you do that, see, I run my hand flat across there, and then my middle finger will feel that button. And when I push the button, now remember now, folks, do everything in 3, 6, 9, 12. When you tap it like that, you see, that's okay. Then the animal will hold it up. But the main thing is, you notice how I had my finger on the button, and then the mule will get used to picking up the foot without you having to hit it. Now, go back, and here's the hip bone. Take the hip bone, push on it, watch the foot. See the mule leaning away from you? See that? That's what you want to do. So as you push the button, slide your hand down. See how the mule's starting to move his leg? That's okay. Even if he moves away from you, he still picks the leg up. All right? Now, you rub on it. Watch this. I'll rub the button. And at the hock, I push the button. And if he's leaning on me, at the hock, I rub the button, rub the button, rub the button. I'm fine. There. The mule finally gave way and gave me a little bit. Again, that's what, notice the mule is leaning into me. He finally listened to the button and leaned away from me. Now I pick up the foot. Now notice when I pick it up, I go to the inside. I don't keep it on the outside because I want to disengage the hind leg. Okay, so I bring it forward first. Then I come straight back once the mule relaxes, and then I move to the inside. Now the mule is relaxed. Now he'll pick up his feet for me. So you see, I use the hip bone and I use the scapula for the cues to pick the feet up. It's really, really important that you do that. Okay. And that's my buddy there. Now notice I'm using my foot again to tap. Now some mules will kick at you, so you want to be careful to do that. But I prefer to use a quirk, okay, which really works better.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Polly is watching from Barnesville, Minnesota, 77 and beautiful. Susie says pine tar mixed with linseed oil, bottom of hoof 2, apply once a week.
I will depend on how dry it is and how much it sticks on there, but I'll make sure it stays on there. So do the bottom of the foot too? Yes. Okay. Will it stay on there very long? No, it won't. The main thing is you want to do is coat that frog. Coat it good. And that's the biggest thing. But otherwise, what happens is when you put that pine tar and linseed oil on there, and you put it on at the hoof line and it covers the hoof, it eventually goes down through the hoof using the white line, okay? And it softens things up and helps the whole foot to be good and healthy. That's really important. Now, remember, folks, the reason you shoe, the main reason you shoe is because your mule don't have a good foot. Don't tell me your mule's got a good foot. I can point out to you really quick that the 90% of you out there don't have a good foot. Most of it's contracted. So here, go back to this. Keep the pine tar and linseed oil on there, and it really works good. And then when you shoe them, you shoe to make sure that their feet are solid. If you have cracking, a really bad cracking like the lady did on her donkey, get them shots and then start using the pine tar and linseed oil. Then that way, what's going to happen is the mule and the donkey will start getting to have a harder, better foot. Now, you don't want the foot hard, but you want it to be kind of between so that it's easy to trim and shoe and stuff, but it's also not so brittle that it's going to crack. And believe me, folks, quarter cracks are are one of the biggest problems of your mules and donkeys.
Let's see. Rory says, thanks for the tip on speeding up mine's Troy's teeth loose. There we go. Jane says, hello, Live Oak, Florida. 95 here today and hot. David Pingelli, Manchester, Georgia, sunny and 85 here today. Cowboy Ken says, hello, guys. Kathy says, I tried to subscribe, but I'm having trouble. So I'll do it after the show. I don't want to miss the show. Kathy, I love it. Thank you for taking a moment. Appreciate that. Andrea says, my donkey has what I call a dog walk. I can get him to walk out faster. Then he does what I think is a single foot gait, which I call a shuffle. He can trot and canter. Is this normal for all donkeys?
Oh yeah, a donkey. My donkey, Superstition Jack, when I was breeding him, I could actually lope circles and do reining leads. I mean, I could do a flying lead change, and I could do loping circles right and left. I could even do sliding stops. They weren't real pretty because donkeys don't have a really good hip. But yeah, it's very natural for a donkey to do a canter or a trot. Okay. The main thing is when you start teaching any mule, any donkey, how to lope or to canter, you want to make sure that they side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters first. Because what happens is if you push your donkey into a trot or into a canter without doing a proper lead departure, pretty soon your donkey's going to kick up with both hind feet, and he's basically saying, hey, I'm uncomfortable here. Because when you went from a walk to a trot to a canter, you didn't have proper positioning of the hindquarters and the front end to make your donkey, to make your mule easy and easy to go into a canter or a trot. Okay, so folks, don't trot or run until you do your basics: turn forehand, turn hindquarters, side pass. You want to make sure you do that so that you can have a proper lead departure.
Awesome. Great question. Thank you. Let's see here. Eric is watching from New Mexico. Dave says, I have been doing groundwork as I have time with winter, sometimes 2 hours a week, and during bad weather, 3 hours a month. They still make progress. The come-along rope makes all the difference. Thank you, Steve. Steve, shouldn't Dave O'Brien be training much more than that? Don't you need to get out there for an hour every single day and just work them into the ground?
No, that's foolishness, folks. 4 to 6 hours a week is a lot of time, and especially on your older mules, it's about right. But on your younger mules, maybe 2 to 4 hours a week. You don't need no more than that. If your foundation is right, you can pick up after several weeks of just standing around. Because Dave has had some pretty bad weather over there and stuff. And by the way, Dave, we got to get together about your Arkansas trip. The friend of mine, Steve Ham. By the way, folks, I like to go and help folks out. Steve Ham is a longtime friend. I've probably known him for 25 to 30 years. And in Arkansas, he has a program where he helps underprivileged kids. He has programs that helps people who have different function problems and this sort of thing. Anyway, he uses horses and he has some mules too to help people. And so he's asked me to come and help him with some folks in up and coming October. So after I get done with Shelbyville, I'm actually going to be on the road this year doing this. I'm going to Shelbyville and doing the show there in the clinic, and I'm going to do Cowboy Church a whole bit. Then I'm going to go from there over to Arkansas and help Steve Ham and help him with some folks and kind of help their life be a little bit better.
Awesome. Now, Steve's talking about Shelbyville, and I want to make sure everybody knows the American Mule and Bluegrass Festival It happens annually in Shelbyville, Tennessee, and in the past, Steve has gone, and once again, Steve is going to the American Mule and Bluegrass Festival. It's coming up. It's September 26th through 28th. Steve's going to be there. It's a great event. There's all sorts of stuff for everyone in the family, all ages, all the way from baby all the way up to grandpa. It's going to be so much fun. And like I said, Steve will be there. He'll be available. If you see him walking around, he'll be available to say hello. And if you got questions, you can ask a question. He may ask to take a picture with you, so be prepared just in case. I hear he charges in pictures and barbecue. But nonetheless, it's going to be a lot of fun right here in the comment section. American Mule and Bluegrass Festival. There's the link in the comment sections. Y'all go check that out, and plenty of time. Steve's going to be attending, as of now, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Marty Ray does a great job out there. Matter of fact, I'll get a link here. We did an interview with Marty Ray about last year's Mule and Bluegrass Festival. I'll put a link in the comment section so y'all can listen to that. It's a lot of fun, and sure hope that you can get out there and join everyone for the great event. Let's see. Question comes from one of our YouTube friends. Can fresh first cutting alfalfa make a mule jumpy? What a great question, Steve.
Oh yeah, don't even go there. Not only are you going to grass foundry him, but you're going to make him flat stupid. It's like giving crack cocaine to a cocaine addict. First cut alfalfa, first cut any kind of grass, hay, first cut everything, but especially alfalfa. Oh man, they will get crazy. And it'll take you up to 30 days to get them off of that alfalfa high, so to speak. So no, keep it away from them, okay? It's great for cattle. You're fattening up a steer, and this sort of thing. It's great, but it's no good for the kidneys, the urinary tract, and this sort of thing, and especially the large and small intestines. It can make a mess of that stuff pretty quick. Okay, so don't do that. Don't do that.
Feed is such an integral part of the way I don't want to say control, but influential part of how your mule behaves. Steve's got an article that I'll put a link to in the comment section. It's called Mules Can't Stand Prosperity. It's all about creating a feed and nutrition program for your mule or donkey. And just making subtle changes in their diet, getting a hair follicle sample from your local university extension center so you know what natural vitamins and minerals that they have in abundance and what vitamins and minerals they may be deficient in. And then also feed according to use. We had a question come in sometime last week on YouTube or Facebook, and I answered it. They said, basically, like, there's nothing wrong with just letting the mule out and eating at pasture. And I said, well, the problem is next to not knowing exactly how much they're getting or what they're getting, you're also going to let them eat, and they're not going to be working according to what they're eating. They're just going to eat and eat and eat. And that's what Steve's article, Mules Can't Stand Prosperity, is all about. I'll put a link in the comment section so y'all can check it out. Let's see here. Kathy says, since my donkey has white line disease, I should not use pine tar and linseed oil, correct?
I would still use it personally. If your donkey's got white line disease, you do anything you can to help him out. They get really tough when it comes down toward the end. Now, is your white line, is it starting to spread, or is it still staying narrow? Okay, and so tell me about that as well. Is it getting spread wider in a particular part or all of it? Tell me about your white line, what it looks like.
All right, we'll wait for her to chime back in and let us know. Susie says, my green donkey still keeps his tongue behind the bit. Have been using the surcingle. Should I be concerned?
It's not unusual. Did you get your teeth balanced and framed up? You want to make sure that your teeth are done correctly, and make sure that his wolf tooth is pulled. That's the upper part. Is in front of your molars. Okay, make sure that's pulled. Now, if he's getting his tongue up behind the bit, lower the bit, lower it down. I prefer it in the very beginning to lower it where it's bumping the front your front teeth, your incisors, and so have it hang down there. Now, do you have a Jack or do you have a Jenny?
All right, we'll see what Susie says. It's Susie Rodriguez. Do you know what she has by chance? I know you've been talking. I know so many people call you, but do you by chance know what she has?
I don't remember. I think she's got a young Jack. I think she has a Jack. Okay. And the reason I want to know is because you see, here's their front teeth here. Okay. Here is a canine. And so your young Jacks and your young mules, your John mules, all have a canine. And as they get older, it gets longer. So you want that bit hanging down, bumping that canine, so that it makes them uncomfortable when they pick it up and pack it. Now, folks, sometimes these mules and donkeys will do it immediately, zip, we're done. Other times it is a fight all the way through, okay? So biggest thing you all can do is don't get in a hurry. When I have one that wants to get his tongue all over where he should be, I make sure the dental first, make sure that's all done. And then I put a adjusted rope halter on their nose, and I use a combination of the adjusted rope halter and the bit on my surcingle, and I turn them loose in the round pen, and they will spend several hours out there. I may bring them in long enough to take a break to maybe get a drink of water, okay? But if they want to fool around with the bit, I just turn them loose out there in that round pen and give them time. But use the rope halter, because the rope halter then works off of the nose. And then having the knots adjusted, when they put their head in the wrong place or they go to grind in their mouth a lot, the knots on the rope halter tells the mule, tells the donkey, hey, get yourself into place.
All right. Beth is watching from Burdett, South Australia, and that means we've gone international again. Overcast, cool, and 8 a.m. Very dry here, looking for rain. Yeah, I hear that, Beth. Let's see. Rory says, searching for accommodations in Shelbyville. Hope to be there. How awesome. Rory, coming to Shelbyville. That's great.
Yeah, there are, we do have a hotel there that you, when you contact Marty Ray, you'll see his email and stuff there. He can set you up with the hotel. There's also RV parking, and there's also places to put your mules and donkeys to corrals. So I am going to be doing some training seminars, some little 1-2 hour runs here and there, which I'm getting with Marty Ray on it. And I'm going to, therefore, if you all want to come and bring your mule and want me to spend some time with them, all I'm looking for is a donation. Okay. It's normally when you come to one of my clinics, you're going to pay about $600 for the day. Okay. And I usually charge around, well, I won't go into that per hour, but you just think about a donation, and that's what it's going to take. And then we'll spend an hour or two at you. Sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 people out there I'm helping at one time, and we'll do 1 hour segments. But anyway, we do have plenty of places to camp and to hotels. We have they have chuck wagons there, and the chuck wagons you can actually feed out of the back of an old chuck wagon. Pretty cool. And they have other vendors and stuff there as well. So it's a great time to get together. And Marty Ray, he's kind of the the apostle of mules. He loves mules and donkeys, just loves them, and he's always trying to share about how to help your mule and donkey.
Yeah, I put a link in the comments section a little bit higher up. It's Marty Ray and sharing all about the American Mule and Bluegrass Festival. If y'all enjoy hearing folks just talk about loving life, how amazing equine are, specifically the mule and donkey, and Steve Edwards, then you're going to love that conversation. It's a lot of fun. And hey, you know what? If you subscribe to the podcast, not only will you hear it when you listen today or tomorrow, but on the podcast, it's going to pop up here in probably a few months, so you'll get to listen to it again. Next question. We talked last week a little bit about a Crupper, Steve, and we said, do not use the Crupper, use a Britchin. And we had a question from Scroggs on YouTube says, what about using a Crupper on harness for a pulling wagon?
Yes, that's exactly why the Crupper was designed. On your breeching, when it's on a saddle mule, you want your hip safe between the dock of the tail and the point of the croup. Okay? Dock of the tail, point of the croup. There's where you want it, on a saddle. When you are driving, your harness is going to be in front of the croup. So the croup is kind of the pivot point of your hip. Here's the tail, okay? And so you want on harness, you want that breeching, your hip safe, to be in front of that. And the reason you want it that way is because when it comes to your breeching and this sort of thing, there's back straps, okay, on the back of the harness. Those back straps actually pull the saddle forward and bring the breeching up. So with a tail crupper on there, it helps keep the plate, your hip safe. It helps keep it into place so that your spider hangs the breeching correctly in harness. So there are two different ways there to do that. So you want to make sure that you use your crupper with your driving harness.
Awesome. Glad for that follow-up question, Scruggs. That was great. Gidget says, made it. Got some rain here in Stephenville, Texas. All right, bring the rain. Let's see here. Susie says, it's a jack and the teeth are done, Steve.
Good. Okay. Well, it's a young jack too. So, it's not unusual for them to spend time with it. Don't get in a hurry. But the biggest problem with us as humans, we tend to want to hurry up and get it. Some go really quick, some go really slow. And so, all I can do is give you approximations what happens and then go from there. But just take your time, Susie. You're doing good.
Awesome. One thing my dad has always said, and now I say it to my boys, and it's funny, my dad's like behind me. He can probably hear me right now. He always said, haste makes waste. And so when my boys are like, let's go, and fast, I'm like, hey, granddad says haste makes waste. And they're like, like you'll get it one day. Let's see.
We got some pictures from Dave Pengali, don't we?
Yeah. You want to get to those?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I guess we should. Steve, the time is flying.
Yes, it's gone.
All right, here you go.
Now looky here. This is Dave Pengali, the coffee man, the best coffee that there is. Come along, coffee. He's got his corral panels ready. He's got his shade all put up. Now notice how he has his corral panel set up and his shade. Okay, he's doing 20 by 20 stalls, but he's doing an outrun. Okay, and he has it in such a way with these corral panels that if he doesn't want them to be in an outrun, he can easily pull these panels around and make up a 20 by 20 stall. So there you go, folks. Here's David Pengali, the best coffee in the world, okay? And how that's something else he does there. You see the hot rod? He loves hot rods. He just got some trophies for his hot rods. There's my buddy, Dave Pengali. He sure does have some sweet hot rods, but he's got some great mules coming. he got his wife's little mule, had actually sold her, and then she decided she wanted to start riding again because now Dave has a really nice mule that he was able to get through a friend of mine, and he's going to have a really awesome mule. So I said, Dave, when I come to visit, where are the keys to your hot rod? And of course, he told me where they were because I told him I don't want to go for a ride. You're in gentle mules. Anyway, I go take his hot rod out. So he put together the corrals, and he says, Steve, I've never had corrals like this before, but I can see that they're going to work.
You guys and your hot rods and corrals. Hot rods, corrals, and coffee.
And
Melissa says, Melissa says, I have 2 donkeys with my horses. I'm trying to teach them to accept grazing muzzles, but it's not going well. They get so frustrated. Any advice?
Well, welcome to the world of frustration when it comes to mules and donkeys. When you have a great big pasture with all that grass, they're going to paw on that thing. They're going to take it off. They're going to take it off. They're going to take it off. I've got one that I've designed. Matter of fact, the pictures of the lady's donkey, she didn't like the idea because it seemed to be so big, but it's working out perfect. So here's the deal, folks. They want to eat. That's what they like to do. It makes their mouth feel good when they're chewing. So what I prefer to do is I use like Palo Verde limbs. I'll throw it into my mule's corrals, and they can chew on a Palo Verde limb. Okay, far better than have them out in pasture. You all think about it. When you go to a smorgasbord, you always overeat. Don't tell me you don't. I know better. Okay, so you go there and you always overeat. Well, what do you think your donkeys and mules are going to do? Especially donkeys. They are very, very bad about getting grass founder. Look at the top of their neck. Look at the dock of their tails. Fat pockets, really heavy. So now there's no advice I can give you. I don't know, David, did you put up a picture of my grass grazing muzzle and that donkey?
Yeah, I can get it for you here real quick. Let's see, muleranch.com. While I'm bringing that up, Kathy says, I don't think the white line is getting wider. He is not lame at all. What happened is he damaged the front of his hoof walls by banging them on the stall wall. He was rearing up over the top of the stall to fight with another donkey. Then came the white line. So that's what she has to say there.
Really? I've never heard of one getting white line disease that way. And she must have had a vet to look at it and say it's got white line disease. Because usually white line disease is you get separation of the lamina and the white line gets wider and you start getting separation and pretty soon the hoof splits and it's pretty ugly. All
right, let's see here. Yeah, so here, Steve, there's the muzzle, and then right there.
Now you see the way my muzzle is, folks. You want it high enough that it's covering clear up to the cheekbones of your donkey or your mule, and you want it to have where it's just touching the bottom of the nose. And by doing that, that'll help. But the main thing you want to remember is, folks, it's really easy for them to get up in there and get hung up. So when you have them out on a pasture, you want to be careful because these donkeys and these mules can get hung up on T-post. They get hung up with a back foot and this sort of thing. But there's the way I like to see my grazing muzzles on my donkeys and my mules.
Steve, do you have time for 2 more quick questions?
Sure, go.
All right. One came in, and I don't have it in front of me. I can't find it, but the question was, will your saddles work for a mini mule or a mini donkey?
Oh, yeah. That's not a problem at all. When you say mini, are you having your kids ride them or what? Because like my own personal mule that I sold here last year, Rocky, he was 13 too. So when you say mini, are you sure it's a mini? And if so, how big is it? And then are you planning on riding or having your kids ride?
Yeah, so that's what I figured, and I remember now it was an email that came in, and I replied back with that exact question, saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, look, if it's gonna be for kids riding, you can get what is it called, bareback pad and with a handle on it, and you could put them on back there. I think that's something that you've
Yeah.
talked about in the past. But if it's something else, let us know." I said, but
Yeah.
I believe there wouldn't be any issue or anything preventing a mini or a mini donkey or a mini mule
No, just send
from.
me a text, a picture of the mule or donkey, and I can always help you out with questions.
That's great. Carla says, "Hello, guys. Mix of rain and sun. I'm wondering if there is anything I can do extra for my mule. She went for training 2 years ago and she did awesome. I work her now with the come along rope. She responds well. My concern is training has been off and on. Due to losing my home to a fire, she has been gone all winter as I couldn't get enough feed. So she's home. I worry about training off and on. Poor girl is so sweet and willing. Thanks from a northern British Columbia, Canada." Steve, what would you say to Carla?
Folks, look, we're saying you can do is train every day. You don't have to. Now, you can go out on a trail and you can train and work with them. All right. So if you've got a good foundation, you can leave them set for a long time. Just look at Rocky, my little mule that I had, and Jody has, and Larry up there in Washington. Uh, Rocky set for 2.5 years, folks, and she just picked him right up and just started working with him right away, doing all groundwork first. She knew he'd been ridden. She never even watched me ride him. She just started doing her groundwork, started building her foundation. She could see that Rocky had his training, and now, about almost a year later, she's riding him consistent, and he's been set for 2.5 years. So, if your trainer put a proper foundation on your mule, if they did that, you can let them set as long as you want, and they're going to be just fine.
All right, let's see here. Rory says, "I won't be bringing my mules to Shelbyville, but I will be looking, listening, and learning." That's a triple threat right there. We'll definitely bring a donation. Let's see. Bill says, "Red Georgia clay." Marcia says, "That's a nice setup, David Pingelli." Kathy says, "The Farrier said he has WLD, but if he doesn't, that would be awesome. The Farrier thinks it, but I'm not sure. Could I send you some pics somewhere?"
Yeah, send them to my email, steve@muleranch.com. Let me have a look. See, make sure take a brush and brush the bottom of the hoof really well, okay? And let me see that where I can see the whole thing. And then on the outside, I want to see the hoof and see what it looks like as well. Remember, folks, the hoof should be smooth. If you're seeing rings in it, then that has a lot to do with improper feeding. But anyway, that's another story. Let me see the all 4 feet and hold it where I can see the bottom and the top, 2 pictures of each, and I'll be happy to look at it for you.
All right. Thanks, folks, for hanging out with us today. Sure do appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. Like most of the Tuesdays, this hour went by incredibly quick.
Yeah.
Steve was like, Steve goes, "Hey, can we get to those photos?" I look up, I'm like, we got like 2 minutes until the top of the hour. Yeah, we'll get to those photos. It was just going by real fast. And that's a credit to you guys. You guys make it a lot of fun. We sure do enjoy spending time with you, and can't wait for our next program. Steve, anything you want to say before we leave today?
No, I'm just tickled that we was able to help out some more folks and watch the videos. We have when you all get a digital video, all right, Dave, that gets sent directly to them, right? As soon as they buy the video, then it goes directly to their email, right? Okay, he's shaking his head like a little doggy in the back window. Okay, so do you hear that, folks? When you get a digital video, it goes directly to your email, bang, and then you click on that. And Dave, then not only does he give you the one video that you purchased, How many you usually give them, Dave? 4 or 5?
There's like a total of like 5 additional videos that are in there. Now I've got
3.
like what you'll see right here. This is my administrator account, so I've got all of them in here because I test everything. But you get the feed talk video included in there. You get the ground foundation training video in there. That one we just did. It's real great. You get installing your come along rope. You get installing your rope halter. You get the mastering the saddle video. You get how to use spurs with your mule or donkey. It's real good stuff.
All free, folks. So if you get a digital video from me, which is pretty cool, the nice thing about that digital video is you could take this and go out there and train on your mule and say, okay, Steve said do this, mule, donkey, there you go. And it's great. So he set it up digital. Okay, so it's really easy to do. So if you don't get your video, and we probably should put something on our store that says, you will have your digital video the same day that you purchased it, so that people know. Because I just had some people just contact me from 7 days ago, said we still can't get it. So I told them to check their spam, and I told them to hit support. So anyway, there we are, folks. We're in the modern days now.
That's right. We're in the modern days. And as soon as we get these problems worked out, we'll have a whole new set. Folks, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We sure do appreciate it. It's been great to see you. Can't wait for our next hour together. Until then, God bless. Take care. And we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.